Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, it is a true privilege to be able to share with you a few thoughts today on the context of this most important ISAF forum, the first of its kind to take place in the very heart of Africa, in Khartoum, a city which everybody is so proud and happy of. I would like first to tell you a little bit what I would like to talk about. We're going to talk about collaboration and the importance of international collaboration in particular in order to enhance the capacity of countries to move into this new world of digital economy, especially in the sector of agriculture, which is the driving force of so many economies in the region and other parts of the world as well. So and for this, innovation is really the key word, because digital economy doesn't do anything per se, but it gives you the tools and the means to innovate, because it's a wonderful data ecosystem that allows knowledge to flow around and puts you in a better position to make better choices, better decisions in the way you manage your agriculture sector, your farm, your market, etc. So that's what I would like to talk to you about today. Innovation is defined in many different ways, but let's take three. And innovation can be something brand new. Usually it's what we think about when we think of innovation, something that never existed before, but that suddenly is created, like a new enzyme or a new process that didn't exist before, could be an example of that. But a second type of innovation, which is equally important, might be something that already exists somewhere else, but hasn't been used where you are. So bringing that knowledge, that practice, that instrument, that tool, where you are becomes an innovation where it is. And the third kind is combining elements of current practices, current tools, current instruments that once combined generate something that is brand new and that provides so much more than the sum of its parts. So that's what collaboration leads to, and that's what I would like to talk about today. First, a quick word about Godan. Godan, the Global Open Data Initiative for Agriculture and Nutrition, has, as the name says, as a main focus agriculture and nutrition, looking at it as a continuum, but really based on a collaborative approach for innovation, to innovate, to create new things, to bring food security to the next level that is required, especially before 2050, when the world will include 3 billion more people than it does today. Just on this slide that I prepared for you, you can see how Godan is today. Godan started 3 years ago, so we're a very young organization, but the fact that we now count almost 800 partner organizations, being governments, research organizations, universities, private sector companies from all around the world, shows how much traction, how much interest, and how much importance people are giving to collaborating, working together, sharing their best knowledge to make things better and bring this world to the next level of performance, especially in the critical sector that agriculture is. Now on the next slide you can see something that says future farms, but while it might look futuristic, all of the elements that are on this slide exist today, so they're not science fiction for the future, but there are things that are available today, be it drones, be it sensors that you can have everywhere on your equipment, on your tractors, even on your animals, so you can know where your cattle is and even how it's doing, if it has fever, or if it's underweight, or if it has some other problem. But it doesn't mean that you need all of that to be able to move into the digital economy and the digital world. But I just brought that one to show you the kind of things that are part of this global discussion, one of which is the Internet of Things. That slide shows a little bit of that also. The Internet of Things is basically things, tools, instruments that talk to each other. And they talk to each other oftentimes through the Internet, hence the name, the Internet of Things. One should not underestimate the volume of such instruments that are interconnected. In 2025, it is estimated, that's just a few years from now, there will be more than 50 billion tools or instruments that will be interconnected as the Internet of Tools provides. Now, as you can see on the next slide, things doesn't need to be so complicated as the previous slides might have said to be able to benefit of the Internet of Things and the the potential that it has for agriculture, among other things. So this is a simple example of an initiative that's taken up by one of our partners that aims at helping farmers better manage the water resources that they use for irrigation. So what you can see is a sensor that is the stick on the left of the slide that detects the moisture level in the ground. And on the right-hand side, or in the middle rather, you have a solar panel, so it's totally operated under solar energy. And then on the right, this round thing that you have there does two things. First, it receives data, free data. We're all about that, about open data, weather data. And then it transmits the combination of the two, the moisture of the ground plus the weather data, to your mobile phone. So it may tell you, if you have 2 or 3 of those sensors on your farm, that this part of your farm is a little bit dry. However, it's going to rain tomorrow, so you don't need to water it today. So that's one simple example of data integration that is designed to help better manage agricultural resources, in particular water. Data integration is the key. The next slide shows that a little bit. Again, you have all these sensors on the tractors and the satellites and data coming from all kinds of sources, but you also have layers. And what these layers represent is historical data, because the integration of different sources of data provides for one very important thing, is that it improves the quality of the data that you generate, because one source can correct the other one. So, and complete it, fill in the gaps, the data gaps that you may have, so it improves the quality of the data that you have. But when you compile it historically and you keep track of it as you go, it provides for an additional advantage, which is just fantastic, because it allows you to reasonably predict the future, or predict how the future would be unless you influence it. And then data can also give you hints as to how to influence it. For example, if it says that, well, 3 years ago when conditions were like this, we had an infestation of that. And this year the conditions seem to be the same. So therefore, we can predict that there's a high likelihood that there will be an infestation and take precautions to prevent it from happening. So that's the additional advantage of integrating data, but on a historical basis as well. Now, among the sources of data that are most important, there's about 10 that are generally asked for, especially by farmers or all those involved in the agriculture industry. The 3 most important ones, though, are geodata, data coming from satellites, drones, sensors of different kinds; weather data, especially in light of climate change, where the seasons are shifting a little bit, and when rain is more or less becoming unpredictable as to when the rainy season starts and stops, which is very important so that our farmers can plant at the right time and harvest at the right time too. And then the third is market data. That's the third source that's the most important. This slide that we have here just gives you a glimpse as some type of information that you can get directly from satellites. This is a project that was done in South Africa with the aim of reducing water consumption in these fields that you see in the various colors over there. The objective was to reduce water consumption by 30% over 5 years. They achieved this over a year and a half, because they found out, and that's what these colors reflect, that some fields were receiving about 4 times the water that they needed, while some others didn't receive enough. So by adjusting this, they managed to reduce the amount of water needed and produce just the same, if not more than before. You can get also all kinds of other information using satellite data and other sources like drones or other source of geodata, but this is just one example. In this next slide that I have, it's just an example of the soil analysis that you can have made very fast using modern technology, digital technology, whether satellites or drones, where you can have a pretty accurate soil analysis without having to send anybody there. So just by overflying your land and therefore knowing which are the best areas for planting and where the best harvests are likely to come from. The next one is an example that many of us live nowadays because of climate change in particular. This is Morocco, where they predict, as in many other places, that because of global warming, water precipitations or the rains are going to decrease over time quite significantly. And at the same time, temperature is going to continue to increase, meaning as a result that yields such as wheat, which you have on the right side of that slide, is likely to decrease. So that's the kind of information they got compiling data, weather data and others with this. They found that the solution to do this is to find a way when the rain comes, especially as it's shifting over time, to capture it and keep it, as much of it, in the ground. And the way to do that was to change the way people would do plowing, to develop more adapted equipment and different ways to do planting and to do plowing. So instead of plowing deep, which releases carbon in the air, which is already not so good, but also releases or does not allow water when it finally comes to easily get in the ground. They found that just using conservation agriculture was a solution for them, because it allows fields to maintain a green coverage and therefore absorb and keep water for much longer. As you can see on the two pictures, within 4 years, the same field, which was eroded and very dry before, is now green and very productive in terms of agriculture. That's the result. You don't have to see the numbers, but just looking at the two columns, the blue column reflects the production today of the two main crops, wheat and lentils. So you can see that now they produce almost 5 times what they used to produce before, just by using data and improving the way they do their practices. As a result of that, or in order to do that, another outcome of data, using data into digital agriculture, was the development of adapted equipment, adapted technology. And these are some examples that you see on this next slide, where equipment was designed in order to do this surface plowing called cultivation agriculture. Finally, last slide I have is this one, which is an example of some apps. This is from one of the companies that's working with us. It's Bayer, but many other companies do the same too. What they do is that they bring big data to the fingertips of the farmers. What you see, these two applications are to detect infestations and help the farmers fight these problems. The one on the left is weeds or invasive species of this kind. While on the right, it's insects of different kinds. So what the farmer does with this is that he just takes a picture of the insect or the weed that suddenly appears and seems to be damaging his crop. And within a fraction of a second, this record is compared to millions of other records. And then the answer comes back saying this plant or this insect is this, what it does is that, and the way to get rid of it is doing this. So you see, big data, weather data, geodata, Internet of Things, all of this source of knowledge can be brought directly in the hands of those that need it the most, the farmers. But to make it happen, we need the right policies, we need the right environments, and that's where government leadership is most important. First, to facilitate making agriculture data available to these farmers, to the private sector, so that they develop applications like this, but also to encourage collaboration within the country, within the region, and within the world. So on this, I wish you all an excellent conference, and I wish you all the best.